unfettered or unregulated capitalism is about societies that cannibalize themselves. When capitalism is the dominant ideology, and as Marx understood, it's a revolutionary ideology. It turns everything into a commodity, including human beings, and of course natural resources, and it exploits these commodities until they are exhausted and they are destroyed. And that's precisely what has happened. We have allowed all of the restraints, which were never heavy enough on the capitalist system, to be lifted, and built into capitalism is a self-destructive quality, a form of self-annihilation, and that is what we are undergoing at this moment. It's a form of collective suicide in a way, because the ramifications of this economic collapse are going to be played out far beyond the economic sphere. It's going to deeply disrupt the social, cultural, as well as the economic life of ordinary Americans.
And yet they're trying to fix the problem with capitalism.
Yes, well, that, of course, is what's so tragic. They're trying to sustain an unsustainable system.
What kind of world do you think we face over the next couple of decades?
Well, all of this is tied into the environment, because globalized capitalism has not only exploited human beings, it's exploited the natural resources that sustain the human species. And all sorts of people who have spent their lives studying climate change, from Bill McKibben on down, have warned us that we don't have a lot of time left. So it's not just that capitalism has destroyed our economic system and hijacked our political system, but it literally is extinguishing the system that sustains life. If that's not thwarted soon, and we already know that the planet will continue to heat up no matter what we do, even if we were to stop 60% of our emissions now, which is sort of the minimum that most people are calling for who follow the degradation of the planet, then we will begin to see massive dislocations, environmental refugees, further depletion of natural resources. Overpopulation is also an issue. I mean, the UN estimates that by 2050 the size of the planet will double. And that kind of a world will not be a peaceful world. We think in the industrialized world that we're not overpopulated, but that's only because we consume such a disproportionate share of the world's resources, 25%. We as Americans consume 25% of the world's petrol. Well, once those resources become harder to get and more expensive, I think that the studies say that Great Britain has roughly 60 million people, but if it had to, on its own resources, sustain a population, it could sustain a population of 18 million. That's some 43 million Britons who can't be sustained. So
that means they have to take from somewhere else.
Well, that's what we do now, but it may become harder and harder to take from somewhere else as these non-renewable resources are destroyed and decimated. So I think that it gets back to the whole ethic of capitalism, which is everything is a commodity to be exploited. And we are seeing the consequences of the exploitation of human beings and the suffering that entails. But twinned with that is the exploitation of the natural world. And just as they are destroying lives, they're destroying the ecosystem itself.